lyrical, spiritual. Lyrical, spiritual.
Did you start out rapping? Were you one of the dudes that started out rapping?
Yeah. I mean, never just like writing rhymes, like doing everything, trying everything, like going out doing graffiti. Like I've never been an artistic person, but I always used to kick it with graffiti dudes and
right.
Dudes that were just all interested in the same stuff. Like
shout out Dimes,
Scardato, who just did my album cover, just like my boy Roberto, Nick Ligero, whose brother, Natasha Leggero. Like he's still rapping. He's in LA.
Nice.
Virgil, who's Virgil now.
Yeah, so you grew up with Virgil. How do you pronounce his last name? Abloh?
Virgil Abloh.
Yeah, right. Louis Vuitton head designer and
Javier.
Yep, Big Jav.
Dave. Like we had a good crew, man. Like we weren't taking it as seriously as like Chicago kids, where like we didn't think we were on that level to be putting out tapes.
Right.
Like we were the Rockford scene if there was any sort of like underground scene, but like nobody was really putting out releases or taking it as seriously. Like we used to go into Chicago, like when we were starting from when I was like 15, we would go into Chicago and go to shows. Whatever shows were underage or all ages, we were like hitting every hip hop show in Chicago.
For people that don't know, Rockford is just north of Chicago, another big city north of Chicago.
Yeah, it's like it's not a big city anymore. It used to be like the second largest city in Illinois. It was one of those like factory towns that had a lot of industry back in the 60s.
Right.
And then the Rust Belt, like all the industry left, and then just left all those Midwest cities like kind of devastated. Like that whole strip from, the whole Rust Belt.
From Milwaukee all the way down.
Yeah, Milwaukee, even up to like Buffalo, New York, like Detroit, Buffalo, the whole like spread. Rockford is definitely just one of those cities that's kind of like left in the dust. It's also on the border of Wisconsin, so it's got that like Wisconsin vibe too, the guys from Wisconsin.
You ever see this dude JP Awaken on on Instagram or on YouTube? He does like this political satire. He's big, kind of buff white dude with long red hair. He's got a super Midwestern accent.
Yeah, I know that guy. Yeah, that makes sense that he's from Wisconsin. I like that dude.
Yeah, he's hilarious, man. So going back to how you started. So when you were 15, you were making trips to Chicago. You were going to shows?
Yeah. We went to like the very first Wu-Tang show in Chicago. Like we were all up on that shit.
I bet
like,
that was rowdy.
I was always interested in DJing. 16, 17, when I was like, I'm gonna start like making beats. We were just like, I just had the SP202. That was my first joint. Actually, before
was that the one with the drum machine? The SP202 had the drum machine on it, right?
It's the one that all these kids, it's the Boss or the Roland Dr. Rhythm. That's the one I'm thinking of. The 202 is called.
It wasn't a sampler though. It was just a drum machine,
it's
right?
It's the one that predates all the one. No, it was a sampler. It was the one that, all the kids now, like cats now are using that 303 with all the effects on it.
Yeah, the 404 and the 303.
404, yeah. It was the precursor to those. That was my first like real sampler. I think I was 17 when I got that. But before that, I had one of those like Vestax mixers that had like the 2-second. It was huge, big ass mixer with like
I remember
6
those
dumbass channels.
Yeah,
and then it had one tiny little button you could sample. And like you couldn't save it or anything. It was just like you had to like you could play a record and it was sample, and it was just like a
loop pedal
loop thing,
Yeah,
and like that was the first one I had, and I would listen to loops for like a half hour, like oh shit, like a James Brown loop, and it would be just like damn, I did that, that was my first shit.
Were you into digging for rare records back then, or how'd you get into that? Was that around that time?
Yep. Yeah, it was all around the same time. Like, my boy Vic, I'd say shout out
Yeah,
Vic
shout
was
out
like
Vic.
the one who. I mean, I was into collecting records because I got my dad's collection, and I think what hyped me up first was like going through and having like this Al Cooper record that was like the Far Side sample, like the it's Your Mama. It's the sample for Your Mama. It's on this Al
Okay.
Cooper record that my dad had, and I was like, that was the first like connection. I was like, damn. I was like just listening to that Far Side record, and then I was going through my dad's records and like heard that sample, and that was when like the real connection hit. Like, damn, oh, these guys are just like people are just sampling. You know, this Al Cooper I thought was like the rarest weird record in my dad's collection at the time. Like it was like the one that was like, I've never heard of these guys. Like, what's this? You know, and then I realized it was like this obscure record. And then, yeah, you just get I got interested like that, you know, like looking for samples that other cats had already used.
Was that what kind of got you into
Like getting off on that. Like,
was that what got you into producing more, was finding the rare records and wanting to chop them, or did you do it because you it was kind of the thing to do for a producer?
No, it was a little bit of that. Like, I mean, I didn't have a starting point. You know, you don't really have a starting point to go off of. So you're just like, oh shit, I want to find that sample. I heard that's from this one record. And then you like build up this database of records that you're looking for. Like, oh, this has those drums on it. Like, I got to get those drums. Those drums are dope. So you go looking for that record forever. And that leads you in a million different pathways, you know, like you hear about different.
So what was the first machine that you started chopping samples on? Was a 202?
Yeah, so I don't know, like I think like with anything, you start with a cheap sampler like that. It's good to learn. I got acid. I remember
wait, let me stop you right there. That's you were a master at acid when I met you, and I was fucking around with acid when I met you too, and yeah, this is kind of where I wanted to go with this. Is when I met you, you were chopping records on acid, and I've never seen anybody chop them that way. Like, I was like, damn, he's using 120 tempo on every track. It doesn't make any sense to me. I still try to figure it out. I was like, wait a second, and these sound good, and the drums sound natural. It sounds like somebody's playing the drums, but he chopped all the drums. This shit is insane to me.
Yeah.
So when did you find acid and switch over from 202 to acid?
1998 is when I got acid, because I remember because I was I got it off like this cat who lived in the dorms where I used to go kick it at UIC, and this kid gave me like a CDR, and just like this dude, he was like this bro-y dude, he was like, yo, check this program out, man. That's it. And he showed me like a little bit, and I was like, that was cool. And it was like, you know, back then the only place you could download like programs or MP3s was like college campuses were like popping back then. Like they had the fast internet
for Napster and all that stuff.
The T1 connection.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got.
And it was the first version too. Yeah.
One thing about, you know, what I realize now is like when you're starting out and making a ton of mistakes, or you just don't know what you're doing, you're kind of like floundering and just figuring stuff out. That's what's fun about like a new program or a new thing.
Right.
And you make, especially when you're first just starting to make beats, you know, it's like, that's why I was sampling everything in 120. I didn't know what I was doing, but it turns out like, you know, if you're with acid, it had like its own time stretch. So my beats sounded a certain way because the way I was doing them, you know, like I didn't even know how I was making my own sound or whatever, but I was just kind of like, you know, I did everything the same. I had a process, and I basically used that program for like almost 10 years the same way, just kind of like.
Did any of those first beats that you made off of acid, did they end up on any of the first Galapagos records?
Yeah, the Manhattan Project was all on that. I mean, all of that stuff, everything I ever did on Galapagos was definitely all from acid. Like the earliest stuff I made, I was actually, I was telling you, like I was going through my old CDRs, and I had stacks of those 100 packs of CDRs, and I've been burning them off. And I made a folder of like everything I've ever made, like
Right.
every wave file I ever bounced down out of Acid, and it's fun, man.
What's
Like
what's the number on that? How many beats did you have?
I didn't actually
What
count.
was the
That's interesting.
count?
That's a good question. I'd have to look. I think it's probably around like 600, 700
Damn,
tracks.
dude.
But I mean, I gotta clean through it. There's a lot of bullshit in there. There's a lot of garbage,
I
But
remember going through your beats, and this is fast forwarding a little bit, but I remember you being like, "Yeah, go ahead, go through my folders. Just sit down on my computer." And I was like, "Fuck, this is like the gold mine."
yeah,
Every one, I was like, "Ah, I like this one, this one." I went into Robust folder, took one of his beats, took one of Riff's beats, one of Quell's beats. I was like, I like all these, dude. They were all bangers back in the day.
yeah, it's funny. Like we never. I mean, I was always a little like closed off with like wanting to give everything away. And like nowadays, it's like, please, you're like, you want to do something? Please make something with it. Because like I have all this old shit that we never did anything with that's just sitting there. You know what I mean?
Well, so all right, so you start messing around on Acid in '98, and then that's around the time that you met everybody at Scribble Jam. Did you go to Scribble Jam and meet people, or were you meeting
Nah,
people in Chicago already?
the first Scribble Jam I went to was 2000, I think. It was the year after the Eminem battle.
Oh, with
Meek and
Dose.
Eminem.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was the year after that because my boys went, like everybody from Rockford went, and I didn't go that weekend. And they were telling me like how dope it was and shit. And so we're like, yeah, I'm going next year. But I was making tapes at that point, like the summer before I moved to Chicago. I was making like beat tapes,
Mm.
like when I was 18, and then I was handing them out, like just going to shows, like underground shows at the Royal. There were shows on Milwaukee Avenue. There was like underground shows going on, and I would just make tapes for rappers that I liked and go hand rappers tapes, kind of like demo tapes, and I'd try to sell them. But I was like shy, and I wasn't really trying to get them out there. I gave them to my boys and like gave them to rappers. I remember giving one to like Slug in Chicago, like '98 or something, like all the Atmosphere dudes, the Necrobats. And so that's when like I gave one to Pugsley Adams from the Necrobats. And then I went to this show at the Royal. It was Necrobats, Atmosphere, and I think Rubber Room was there. That was
Oh,
one of the
wow.
crazy. I can't remember. Maybe it wasn't Rubber Room. I can't remember. Somebody else can probably correct me, but that was like the first hardcore underground hip hop show I had been to, I think.
Dude, that's like '98 is the start of it right there. I mean, you guys were in the thick of it. I think the
Yeah,
Midwest had its own little scene in '98 that was bubbling, kind of coinciding with what was going on the West Coast as well.
definitely. There was a lot of people putting out tapes. A lot of it was being, you had to be at gramophone records back then.
Mm.
And when we started shopping at Gramophone, like, I don't know, 96, 95, 96, just driving into Chicago whenever we could drive. When I learned how to drive, it was like we were going to Chicago almost every other weekend to get out of Rockford. Like that's where everything was popping. So Gramophone, man, you had to check Gramophone every week because they would be getting tapes and you had to be there that day to get it. Like stuff would sell out and you never see it again. We'd always go cop mixtapes, whatever, records, finding out about like grabbing flyers. That's where you had to go to like find out about underground shit, whether it was like house or jungle or techno or hip hop stuff. It all went through Gramophone. Gramophone was like the hub in 97, 98, 99.
Yeah,
Chicago.
amazing record store for Chicago independent music scene.
Yeah, so we'd find out about shows. We'd go to little underground shows. handing out tapes. And then I did a couple tracks for Pugsley Adams from Necrobats, which was my first actual thing I ever pressed other than like that I didn't press myself. A cassette, which was on Galapagos 4, which is how I met Jeff. I mean, I had known of Jeff, like I'd seen him at shows.
So that was the Pugsley Adams record for Galapagos 4.
Yeah, Galapagos put out Pugsley's tape, Thanks for Not Rhyming.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that record. It's a good record, man.
Yeah, I did 2 beats on that, and then I met like Off-White from there. I can't remember if I met Off-White or Jeff first, but I just started kicking it with those dudes and fell in. I mean, we were all going to the same shows anyway and like into the same shit. So
was that like was that popping at the time? Was Galapagos kind of popping right there? It was
yeah.
The beginning of that record label, and all of its momentum was starting to build around that time.
I was really into, there was like events all over the city. You could get into hip hop shit like every week in Chicago. You know, and there was whole other scenes going on that I wasn't aware of as well. You know, like the South Side had its own scene, the West Side had its own scene of, you know, different types of rap. But as far as like underground hip hop, hardcore hip hop stuff, it was like, you had Third Rail was throwing shows on the South Side, and then there was some stuff going on the North Side. So there was little hip hop communities kind of all over Chicago. It's a big ass city.
Yeah.
But Galapagos was kind of more on the North Side because Jeff and Justice and Jash are all from the North Side.
Yeah, and around that time did Pugs his record come before the Typical Cats record? That was your second release on Galapagos, was the Manhattan Project beat you did for Quell. Yeah. Yes.
So like the second thing I ever have is like physical pressed music was like the beat I did on the Typical Cats.
Yeah, amazing beat, man. It was epic. It was definitely the writing and the beat went perfect together, man. If you guys have never heard the Manhattan Project, it's an amazing song, just about graph, you know.
It's a funny one. Like, you know, listening to stuff now, like, I made that, 22 years ago? Or 20 years ago. But it's just funny, you know, as you progress and you listen to your old stuff and you kind of cringe. Like, you know, you could have done, like, a crazy better mix and sampled it better, you know, like, made it tighter. But that's also, like,
yeah, but it rocked live, bro. That beat would rock the fuck out live.
Yeah, but you know, it's fun. It's like that's what the hard part about being an artist. You know, once you release something, it's you release it. It's no longer yours. Like the second you press it, it's pressed in time. You know, for history. So
yeah, I mean, and you know, even if it's whack to you, it's tight to somebody else. You know.
Yeah.
There's always that contrast. People are gonna fucking hate it or they're gonna love it. You know, it doesn't really fucking matter in any case. But all right, so then you do the Typical Cats record, and what was your next stuff after that? Was it Off-White? Did you automatically become a part of Galapagos just through the few beats you did, and Jeff and Off-White wanted you, and Justice wanted you to do more beats? How did that work out?
More or less, yeah, man. Like we just all crewed up and just started hanging out a lot. And Justice had a studio. Galapagos 4 more or less was Justice's apartment because Jeff and Justice lived together. So Justice was building his little studio in the back. So, and he had a pretty big crib, so we'd go kick it and drink beer and record and kick it, and it just became kind of like the pad. And I don't think it formally became a crew really until we started putting out all the records we did, you know.
Right. Yeah, So what was the decision to create the record label? Was it just based around that you guys wanted to put records out? Or I know it was Jeff Coolidge's decision, and he had just came back from Amazon and cashed out a bunch of stocks from Amazon when it was first starting. And that's how Galapagos was started.
Yeah, I think more or less that was the story. I mean, they were already putting, I think Jeff and Off-White were putting out some tapes the same way I was in Rockford. Like, I think they were messing around with putting out tapes, and Off-White's first tape, Squints.
It was a great album. Love that album.
Which is, I think that's how you had heard of him, right?
That's how you and I connected.
Yeah,
I had found that record. I can't remember it was around the time I was just like digging my head into nothing but underground rap after I found it, you know.
Yeah.
Going from Bay music to that, and that's how I found you through Squints, you know.
Well, so Galapagos really, they were a crew, which was like Off-White, Justice, who is DJ White Lightning, and Jeff. That was like their crew, really, when I met them. And I mean, Off-White was also a part of Necrobats.
Right. Necrobats is a big Chicago crew. A lot of people came out of that. Open Mike Eagle and a couple other folks came out of that too. Wow. A lot of hometown cats.
Still a lot of people rocking. I'm actually looking at the Squints album right now. I forgot about a lot of this. I haven't listened to it in a long time.
Yeah, the cover was dope, man. From front to back. For me, it was the connection was, you know, the whole Pinoy thing, the Filipino thing, and that's how I found it. And just to give kind of a backstory on how we met, I had found that record. I was throwing shows in Phoenix where I was living at the time, and I decided to bring Off-White out. Off-White brought Meaty Ogre, and we clicked, you know, pretty much immediately, and the rest is history after that, you know.
Yeah, it's funny, man. The older we get, the more details about everything I forget. You know, that's good it's good. That's why it's good to like talk. Some people, like I know Robust, he has a great memory. I don't know. He remembers weird ass moments from
I don't.
20 years ago.
I remember only things that stand out and probably want to forget some of the old stuff, you know.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, you know, so after Squints came out, then what was the next record that you had worked on? Was it Close But No Cigar?
So yeah, I'm looking right now. 2000 is when Squints came out, and that had come out around the time that I met Off-White. Off-White, there was a whole scene at UIC where I went to college as well. Like there was a bunch of shows. There was cats throwing like shows on campus and rhyming every day. Like there was like a big cipher every day out by my school, and Off-White was a part of that. All the Necrobats cats, I know Open Mike Eagle and those dudes, like they were there like all the time. And there was a lot of cats that came out of that. Like there was just these big ciphers, you know, and I would go hang out by there sometimes and just like listen and watch. But I met a bunch of cats through that. Like I think I met Rift at one of those ciphers. And like Quell used to go down to those ciphers, and Optimus Prime and all those cats.
Yeah, when I got to know everybody in Chicago, I was like, damn, everybody I met was a Necrobat. Yeah. Everybody was a part of Necrobat.
All the Juggernauts cats.
Yeah.
You know, they were part of that same scene.
Shouts
like
to them. Shouts
UIC.
to B. Yeah.
But yeah, so as far as then we just kind of clicked up, and then yeah, the next thing I did on Galapagos was the Quell album, which we did a Close But No Cigar. Was like you said, it came out a little bit before.
And was that a Scribble Jam? That was just a straight for Scribble Jam CD, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if, you know, everybody that's watching and even people that that are gonna be watching Scribble Jam. If you don't know what it is, it was like a showcase for all elements of hip hop, the 4 elements of hip hop. Sounds funny saying it right now, you know, because we're so far beyond it now. But back in the day, it was like the pinnacle. It's where you wanted to be. If you were an MC, if you were a DJ, if you were a graffiti writer or a b-boy, that's where you wanted to be. Mr. Dibbs and Pace One do that, and Kevin Beecham.
Yeah, in Cincinnati, Ohio.
And it's where everybody went to meet each other, and a lot of people came out of that scene and made themselves a name as independent artists. And our record label that we shared together, Galapagos 4, got a lot of notoriety through Scribble Jam as well as the independent scene. So just to give a little story line so people know what it is, you know. If you haven't heard of it, that's it. You can look it up. There's still videos. Pretty much all it spawned pretty much the battle scene. So it's pretty cool part of history as far as our independent music goes.
Definitely. So yeah, we had an album that it just, I think the timing wise, it was like a perfect weekend to release the Quell album. I think we released it sometime around the Scribble Jam. So we had made like a tour CD with it that was all kind of like outtakes from.
And Typical Cats had gotten some momentum before that, right? So that was kind of snowballing.
Yeah.
And everybody started knowing about Typical Cats. I think you were the one that put me onto them when you came. You're like, you got to check these dudes out.
Yeah.
Right. So after that, that's pretty much around the time that I had brought you and Off-White out, and we connected. And you told me about Quell. And when you were like, here, listen to Typical Cats. And then you gave me a Quell CD that you pretty much all produced. You produced half of it, basically. If it ain't been in the pawn shop, then it can't play the blues, which the album is incredible. It's circled through my community of homies and MCs. And when I heard it, we were all into deeper things, you know, back then, as far as writing went and as far as beats went and music went. We wanted something with more substance and more depth. And that album, from beginning to end, is incredible. And if you haven't heard it, you should go check it out. But the meaty beats on there are definitely my favorite. The very first joint, the doon doon doon, like, dude, everything was incredible on that album. That's when I fell in love with Meaty's production, and I was like, damn, dude, this guy's one of the best producers on the fucking planet, and still to this date, I consider you one of the best producers on the planet, man. So if it ain't been in pawn shop, that sparked off a lot of your career, and then from there it was boom, you were off and running. And after that, I'm pretty sure you started working on Leo vs. Pisces, which was my first track, and that's when I had moved to Chicago. I know I'm fast forwarding through this, but there's a lot to go through here, and I want to get it all in there.
You brought me and Quell out to Phoenix, promoting some shows. You brought me out with Off-White because I'm also a DJ, and I DJ'd for all the rappers on Galapagos.
I remember being like, you're bringing a fucking DJ? I ain't paying for no DJ.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you came, man. Changed my life.
Yeah, right. I am too. So we linked up. You were in a transition mode, and I was about to move to a new apartment. I was like, yo, come move out. We're going to get this big crib in Chicago. Come move out. Yeah,
I was living in Vegas, and I hated it. I love Vegas, but I just hated living there.
So I can't remember how did that go down that was your first track we did? I can't remember.
So I had moved there in the wintertime, which I was like, why the fuck did I move to Chicago? This shit is cold as shit. As soon as I got to Chicago. But, all we did was drink and listen to music, and I worked at that movie theater in the Gold Coast. And I was hosting I ended up hosting the shows at that Cuban spot. What was it called?
Oh,
Where we had the night?
Hot House.
Hot House. That place was dope. So we were doing a bunch of stuff there, and you were like, "Yo, I'm working on a record. You should do a song. I got this beat for you." And then I heard the beat, and I was like, instantly, like, "Yep, I'll hop on that for sure." And the rest is history, man.
That's weird that I don't think of that as our first track. I thought we did something before that.
Yeah, we did Icy Hot Stunners.
Yeah, for real. You were on one of that?
Bro, you don't remember us? We did high house shows, bro.
Oh yeah, no, that. But I'm saying like that was that our first track we actually sat and recorded.
Nah,
like
it might have been Barry Lee, Larry B and Barry Lee. You know what, bro? That was probably one of the most fun times in my life because we were just fucking around. You were the best to make funny songs. Yeah. I would have never done that shit by myself, but with you, we were just like shit faced all the time, coming home from bars.
I'd still rather do that than any of the stuff I normally do, you know?
It's kind of good practice, you know? It's good. It's good to get that stuff out because then you can really hit it afterwards, you know?
Yep, no doubt.
Yeah, so then Leo vs. Pisces, that was your first fully produced album.
Yep, yeah, I spent a lot of time on that record. I'm looking at it now, and I remember
from end to end, man. That record was solid, and the whole concept of it was great. I mean, I remember it had to do with you breaking up with your girl at the time, and she was a Pisces and you're a Leo, and then you just went down the astrological signs, and it came out amazing, man. The beats on there, everything. Like I think I sound old when I talk to people about hip hop, but like I'm still into that sound. Nothing puts me in a place that nostalgic than like that era does, you know, of beats. And you still have that sound somewhat in your new stuff. So yeah, man, that record was incredible, and I was proud to be a part of it. And some kid told me on tour that he conceived his baby to that track, so I was pretty hyped about that.
You told me that. Yeah, it's fun. I don't know that I'll ever produce a record the same way or do the same type of thing again. It was kind of just moments trapped. Like I spent a lot of time, way more time than I would nowadays, on putting that record together. It was like a huge headache for me, actually.
Well, I think it's a lot easier now because there's a lot less expectation than there was back in the day. Back in the day, we were all trying to outdo each other, so we were taking our time with it, you know. I'm not saying you and I, but as far as like competing with other record labels or competing with other producers and rappers, you know.
The bar was high.
The bar was high, super high, and that's why the quality of writing was so good back then for me, and quality of production, you know, because you come from a camp in Chicago full of amazing producers just like yourself, you know, Maker, Zavala, Void Pedal, just to name a few. There's a ton. I can't even think of them all at the moment, but there's something about the Chicago, Illinois scene that it has its own flavor, and it's strong, and it's hard, and it's perfect. You guys are perfectionists out there. Coming out there changed my whole way of thinking about creating music, you know.
Yeah, I'd say Chicago had it was definitely leaning way more on the like East Coast hip hop sound.
But it was still like Chicago because Chicago is nothing like the East Coast to me. I mean, it still has that flavor, but like you have serious gangs like we do in the West Coast, and then you also have like the brownstone houses and people rock Timbs and shit, you know.
Yeah.
It's a crazy dynamic. It's definitely dead center in the middle of all that stuff, and it's real as fuck out there, you know.
We definitely had our own shit going, especially just within Galapagos. I mean, we're some weirdos, man.
Well, it was a powerhouse, man, and I felt like I fit right in when you know I became a part of it, and we all started touring, and there was a big movement and push behind it that just felt unstoppable at the time. You know, while we were all doing music together, it was perfect.
Agreed. I mean, we were young men before we had kids. It was before most of us had been married, got some serious lives.
Started a record store, and fast forward to now, you just dropped a record called Grenades, which, fuck, man, I was hella happy that you dropped that, and other people, our peers had dropped some stuff as well, which was dope, and I'm feeling like there's another push coming from everybody.
Dude, yeah,
So
hell yeah.
let's talk about this new record, man, because it's incredible. It's a full instrumental album, and it feels right, and you chopped everything. The timing of everything is right, so it doesn't get boring to listen to. It just keeps your attention.
Yeah, that was the plan, man. Just make like little 1-minute grenades, little bangers, and kind of just.
Oh, that's the concept. Wow, that's dope. The titles, everything was dope, man. All the
tossing
titles.
little grenades. It just kind of came. I mean, during this pandemic, I've been sick of staring at this screen, to be honest, because I'm in front of the computer like all day.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I had this SP here, and I bought this rolling little drum machine so I can play like live drums, and I got a little kick pedal at my feet, so it feels like I'm playing drums again.
That's dope.
So I got a cool little setup. So I broke out the SP, and I like busted out 60 beats or something, stacks and stacks of these discs, making beats during this pandemic. And this Grenades tape is just it's a blend of all different stuff I made.
That's something I wanted to note too. I'm glad that you brought that up. Is that you're a drummer, and you're one of the first producers I met that was actually a drummer. So your rhythms really show through in a lot of your production. Your rhythms are always on point. You know how some people's shit can just sound too quantized. My shit included can sound too quantized without a natural swing, and you have a natural swing in your shit that just hits, man. So you have your own signature sound because of that, and I think that plays a big role in your production and how awesome it sounds,
I guess that's the thing I always forget, is the real reason I started making beats was because I couldn't play my drums in my apartment when I moved to Chicago. I lived in a tiny apartment, and I couldn't. I did have my drums in one of my places, and like the neighbor downstairs came and complained in the first day. So I sit there and play them all lightly. But that was the main reason. Like, I could put my headphones on and fuck with beats till like 4 a.m. and get stuff out of my head. And that's
how long have you been playing drums for?
Since I was 8.
Wow.
I got a drum set from my grandma's boyfriend when I was young, and then I took lessons for like 6 months or something, and I played in the high school band and the middle school band. But I never took it super seriously. Like, it wasn't something I wanted to pursue like a career or something. But
well, shit, it helped in your music, man.
So I got this cool little setup now. I can play my drums and sample directly into the SP, like playing my own breaks, like with one hits that I've sampled from my own kits and everything. So
right. So you used so Grenades was all done on the SP and with the rolling drum machine.
Yep. Yeah, like I made a bunch of beats, and then my goal was, because like I've never used the SP for a whole project. You'll make a little something here and there, but I've never used it for anything substantial that I was super feeling. So I wanted to do something with it and make this whole project on the SP.
I know we were bugging you for years to keep making shit on the SP, and you're like, yeah, there's not a lot of sample time on it.
Yeah.
You're like, come on, dude, just run this record through it, please. Run these drums through it.
Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. It can be frustrating. It's very time consuming. You have to, it's a lot of, you're sitting here like a mad scientist, like having to like tap the buttons. So compared to, my whole goal is to just quickly get the shit out of my head as fast as possible.
Right. Yeah.
So like I never felt like the workflow on the SP. I never felt like I had a solid workflow with it. But
were you sampling a lot of records for this one, or I know you were? I don't even want to give your secret sauce away. I'm not going to give it away. But
Well,
I some of the stuff that you told me that you were sampling, and you sent me some of the clips, I was just like, damn, that shit is
yeah,
so raw. Was it all that kind of stuff,
I
like
sampled.
movie,
So
international movie stuff?
all the drums I'd say were from records and my live kits that I've sampled on my own, and then all the samples were from cassettes. So
Mm.
like most of the samples, maybe a couple, like 3 or 4 songs are not.
It's funny because I was just talking to Quell about it, and I was like, you need to get Meaty to get on that freezer burner stuff. And he's like, yeah, dude, you remember that record store in Argyle? He got all those samples from this Vietnamese store on this Vietnamese cassette tape. And I was like, yeah, I remember that shit.
Yeah,
And you were the first dude I saw sampling old tapes like that. I was like, damn, dude, you were
yeah,
killing it back then. And I'm glad you brought it back.
yeah. So I this one, the thing about the SP is you can sample like the cleanest, crispest sound into it, and it's still gonna come out grimy. So
Right.
it doesn't really matter what you put into it. You could put like a sludgy, shitty cassette rip that's been ripped from like 8 generations, played through YouTube, and it's still gonna sound the same as like a clean sample through here. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It just processes it well.
yeah. um
That's great, man. I mean, the whole record is just it flows really well together, and you still have that you have a touch of the old style on this
yeah,
where you took your time to tell a story with it, man, and it's dope. I'm glad it's on Spotify.
yeah.
Yeah, man, and the cover is who did the cover?
uh Javier, my boys, Fatherless, they have a print posse called Fatherless, and they do live screen printing. Every print is different with them.
Yeah,
So
the
like
cover's dope, man. Shout out to Hav and Fatherless. So if you need any shit done, talk to them, man. If you want stuff you like Meaty's cover and all that.
my homies from old school homies from Rockford. So I got a lot of Rockford heads involved on this project, which was fun.
Right. And so is this record dropped on Potions?
Yes, Potions, which is my label. So this is the first record of my music on my label, which is weird.
Wow.
It's a lot
You've been
easier.
doing it for a while.
It's a whole lot easier to put out other people's music, because you're less, I don't know, personal about it, and I'm less, I'm real critical. I've always been real critical of my own stuff, or just, you don't want to put out some bullshit. So it's hard to release your own stuff. But I've reached, in the past couple of years, I've just kind of like, fuck it. I don't give a fuck. I'm just throwing everything. I'm going to throw it all on
I think a lot of us in our peer group are like that, and I think a lot of good stuff's gonna flood out because of that. Everybody's like, you know what, fuck it, dude. I'm just gonna put it out right now. Like, Controller 7's doing great shit right now.
Yeah.
Scott Metallic's new record is really dope.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Scott. Iman's putting new shit out. There's a lot of producers that are coming out. Maker's new record was great.
Fools be snapping.
Yeah, man.
The record you did with Controller 7, that couch is hard as hell.
Thank you, man. I gotta send you a copy. Matter of fact, let me plug this shit on here. I forgot to do it on the Stevie Weeby show. Vinyl, special vinyl, all out. You can see that. Boom. Yep.
Yeah, man. It's funny. In this past week, I've talked to Electro 4.
Shout to Electro 4, man. He's one of the production beasts too.
Yeah, I talked to 6'2" like yesterday or the other day.
Shout to 6'2" too, man.
All the old like beat crew. Talked to Tommy the other day. Talked to Controller 7.
Yeah, I'm glad everybody's still putting shit out, man. So
this is that grenades. So the grenades.
That's dope.
The Fatherless did 25 different covers that are all different colors. Every single one was different. So I say this is the only copy I own anymore. I sold them out the other day.
You know what?
Favorite one.
I'm glad that you did that, and I hate that we're going through this COVID shit right now, but a lot of great music's coming out of it, man.
Yeah.
Yourself included. What do you got coming up next? You have anything planned after this, or you chilling, or you gonna keep going? You gonna keep
I'm definitely
breathing fire?
Oh no, I'm definitely putting out more tapes of my own stuff. I'm working on a second volume. I don't know if it's going to be Grenades yet, but I'm
Mm.
working on another tape, and then I have two 45s getting pressed right now for Potions, and another LP getting pressed for Potions on Potions that should be out in late January.
Any plans to put the Grenades on vinyl? Any
Wax.
of it?
I'm thinking about it. I've had some calls for it, so I want to. It's just it's a it's a type of thing. I always second guess myself. I'm not sure. I haven't put records out in like I haven't put out any Meaty Ogre shit in 9 years. So
I think now's a good time for it, man. There's a place for everything now, and people are so open to every kind of music that I think it's a good time to put music out. I mean, shout out to our record, Barbecue. We need to do
yeah,
part two pretty soon.
that's what I'm saying. Well,
I
that's
got
kinda,
a lot of people hit me up on that record, man, and you know I'm was at the same point that you were last year, and I'm there right now where it's like, fuck it, let's just put music out, let's make some music and put it out like we used to.
yeah, it's funny, man. Like now that I have a full-time job for like the first time in my life, I don't have that. I don't have that same kind of struggle mentality that I've had my whole life because I've more or less been like self-employed or just like
Selling
hustling,
records, yeah, hustling
selling
records and
records.
stuff
And
like that.
so now that I have a little like somewhat secure job, I want to put out everything. I'm just like, I don't feel scared when I'm like dropping $1,000 to press up a record. It's like,
You also want to do it because you don't have much time to do it, and it
yeah,
drives you to
all
want
of
to do
that.
it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just funny. I've spent a lot of my life, a lot of like past like 10 years, just kind of like thinking in that sort of hustle mentality of like, well, I can't afford to work on music because if it's not making me money, I got to be focusing on things that are making me money. And like
Right.
music has never made me money really. It's just been my like fun and passion projects. So
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a huge part of who you are, and I'm glad you do it and you continue to do it. And I'm glad that you came on the show to kind of explain some of the stuff that I've been wanting to hear myself, and hopefully other people will hear it and listen. And I can't say this enough, man. You're one of my favorite producers. If you're like up there with my top five, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that because he's my homie. That's not why I'm saying that. And he's my brother, And there's not a lot of talent out there like you. And if you haven't dug into Meaty Ogre's catalog, dig into it all. Start with our record, and then go make your way all the way through his catalog because it's huge. It's
yeah,
a very
actually,
vast one.
thank you, man. And yeah, and I feel the same way about you as when it comes to rap, man. It's like we have a special crew that just kind of came together, like all of us, like talent. Like we had a special thing going on with Galapagos 4, and it's cool that we're all still carrying on the torch. But
Constant fucking pressure, man.
but I was gonna say also, like, it's been fun now that I'm on Spotify. I went through and I made a playlist of everything that I produced on Spotify.
Sick.
It's on
Dope.
it's on Potions Music on my Instagram. You can check it out. If you're on Instagram, go to Potions Music NYC and check out the
Dope. So where can everybody find you?
I mostly spend time on Potions Music NYC on Instagram.
Mm.
Our Bandcamp page, Potions Music. You'll find us on there. iTunes, all that stuff, streaming. You could check out our Galapagos 4, all the older stuff on Galapagos 4, which I was a part of. Mestizo was a part of. All this old stuff we're talking about.
Big G4.
Yeah.
I don't look at it like a lot of people tell me, like, oh man, you need to talk about the old stuff. Well, there's a lot of people that haven't heard it, man. And I know there's people that would like to find something new, just like I'd like to find something new that they would dig, you know. So you go backwards in time with us, you'll see the young us in an experimental stage, you know, in life. So yeah, and if people want to buy beats from you, are you on Fiverr? I recently fucked with Fiverr. I was like, damn, this is actually kind of tight, dude. The freelance musicians and beat makers, man.
I'm sure it's all out there. I'm always like, even in the 90s, even when we were starting, like, I'm real basic about my shit, you know. Like, I was thinking about the other day, you know, I like just basic ass loops. I like some, like, just a straight dope ass loop and some drums.
I'm with that.
I'm the same way when it comes to, like, internet shit. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on here. Like, I know there's ways I could be making money or slanging my shit or selling beats, but, like, I'm so slow when it comes to this shit. I just do what I like to do, and I.
Well, I mean, why don't you hit up Virgil, bro? Get some beats to West Side Gun. You're up there with Derringer, and you're up there with Alchemist for sure, man. You're Chicago's own, you know.
You know what? I think a lot of it is for not just me, but it's just like I'm lazy, and I feel like putting all that would just be like extra work that I would have to do. Like,
no doubt, he's
more
lazy.
More responsibilities that I just don't need. You know what I mean? Like, then I gotta keep doing that from that point, and I can't. You know what I mean?
You've been raising your son, man, for a long time, and you deserve to kick back and be lazy. But you know, out of that laziness came grenades. So I'm glad, you know.
Like doing things on my own terms, really. You know, I guess is what it is. It's like, if I don't like to feel the pressure of having to do something just because, you know.
I'm with you on that. I'm definitely with you on that. I do not like making music and being forced to make music. If I'm not feeling it, I don't want to do it, you know.
Which is hard because, of course, when you got some good steam rolling and you got a good thing going, good ball rolling, you want to keep it pumping, you know.
Right. You want to stay on it.
But especially like for the stuff that we were doing then and doing now, it's like that. It's you got to stay on the ball. You got to keep it pumping like that. Otherwise,
yeah, you got to get it while it's hot. Most definitely.
So you got to keep the quality control is what I'm saying. You know, like, don't just put out everything you do just because you do it. Like, let it marinate a little bit and.
That's why listening and critiquing your stuff is a good idea, because sometimes you just put out some garbage. I mean, there's been times where I've been way too wasted, and I probably shouldn't have hit that button. Boom.
That's what I'm saying. I've always been more on that tip. Like, I'd rather put out one banging record every 2 years than just, like, putting out some shit every month just to put it out. You know what I'm saying?
But also, it's nice to consider the fans and put things out for people that actually want to listen to your stuff. You know, it's like, for me, I find it really hard to find shit that I like, that I can relate to and want to listen to and line up with, you know, what I expect out of music and what I expect out of my art, which, you know, you can't find much stuff like that. So when you put a record out, I'm like, fuck yeah. When the homies put a record out, fuck yeah. I'm still a fan, man. Keep putting it out. I want you to put it out every month if you can.
Thank you, bro.
You know, this record was so quality. It was unexpectedly good. I'm not saying that you don't do good shit. I'm just saying, damn, I didn't expect it to be this good. And we bumped it. My brother-in-law and I bumped it just nonstop. He was like, fuck, this is meaty. Damn.
Yeah, you know what this record is like the ode to us when we were 17, like getting drunk and freestyling in the kitchen. That's what Grenades is. It's like a steady, like, between 80 to 90 BPM, just boom bap beats, like, to freestyle to.
That's what's up, man. I highly appreciate that, because I was freestyling to it in the car by myself, you know.
Yeah, that's why I made this shit.
But thanks for coming on the show, man. You're my second guest after Stevie Weeby.
I don't even know what's the show called.
The Mestizo Show, baby.
Dope. Yeah, I'm glad to be right behind Stevie.
It's the Mestizo Show, aka the Lyrical Spiritual Miracle Show.
I'm glad I'm behind Stevie, so he can't see me. Like, that dude's a creep, man. He came up.
Hey, he had nothing but great things to say about you, man. No, I know you're playing it. We were talking about you a lot, and yeah, I'm glad that you're, you know, he's such a big part of my history, and you're definitely a big part of my history. Both of you guys changed my life in very positive ways. So I appreciate you coming on the show, bro.
No doubt. Anytime.
I love you, and I we'll be talking soon. I hope you put out some new music soon.
Thank you, Broheen. Love you
All
too.
right, brother, man. You take care.
Lyrical spiritual.